Welcome back to ATB Reef. This video is a 3-month update to a pretty popular video I posted about putting corals on the back wall of your reef tank. We'll look at before and after photos of corals growing on the back walls of my 2 reef tanks and give you a few tips on how you can replicate that success. Only a select few species of coral can effectively be grown on the back wall of your tank. That's because the back wall can have limited circulation as well as limited light. My 2 reef tanks have green star polyp, Cyphastrea, one example of Acropora, and very recently Montipora growing on the back wall of the tank. Let's begin with a look at the SPS tank. In here, we have 2 examples of Cyphastrea, Acropora, and Montipora growing on the back wall. The 2 color morphs of Cyphastrea are Meteor Shower in the background and Hulk Cyphastrea in the foreground. There's also a Tyree tricolor Veleta Acropora, and recently a red Montipora capricornis has reached across and has begun encrusting on the wall. I first started putting corals in the back wall of this tank in January of 2025, and here's what the tank looked like back then. I started out with just the Acropora and the Meteor Shower Cyphastrea. I suppose I actually attached these corals in December. It took about a month before I was certain that they would survive on the back wall of the tank. Here's the red Monty cap before it had reached across about 1.5 inches to contact the back wall. As we zoom in, you can see the original sphere-shaped frag of Meteor Shower Cyphastrea that I glued onto the wall directly. This early video of the tricolor Veleta shows the blob of superglue that I put on the back wall, allowed to harden, and then attached the frag to that, using it as a bit of a shelf or a ledge. The tricolor Veleta has had a very strange growth pattern ever since I put it on. I think it's not getting enough light. So now we fast forward to April and we see some very significant growth. The Meteor Shower Cyphastrea has encrusted about 3/4 of an inch in pretty much every direction, including the shaded part. I've also added in the foreground a Hulk Cyphastrea, which is now encrusted onto the wall, but not showing any significant growth. In the center is the tricolor Veleta Acropora, which is demonstrating a plating growth pattern. Not really something Acropora are known for, and certainly not Veleta species. Here's the most recent video taken in July of 2025. You can see some pretty significant growth from the Meteor Shower Cyphastrea. It's continued to expand, and I'd say has probably doubled in its total surface area. It probably spans close to 4 inches from each side of the column. The Hulk Cyphastrea is growing, but it's growing mostly toward the light, whereas the Meteor Shower Cyphastrea is kind of growing in every direction. I can't really explain why, it's just a different thing for each color morph. The Acropora continues to show a plating growth pattern and seems to be reaching out into the center of the tank in search of more light. As we zoom in for a bit more detail, this 6-month growth experiment is more proof that Cyphastrea are a really good choice for the back wall of a reef tank. They thrive in low light conditions and have really nice color. But this tank has a new coral attached to the back wall, this red Montipora capricornis. Monty cap are a really hardy species and a really good choice for beginner SPS. This very nice red color morph was already encrusted on some rock I inherited from a previous tank. Since January, it's bridged almost 1.5 inches, contacted the back wall, and grown upwards about 3/4 of an inch. I imagine if you put a piece of Capricornus directly on the back wall, it would encrust upwards as well. It would also plate outwards into the tank and may eventually break off, but we can add Montipora capricornus to the list of possible corals for the back wall of a reef tank. While I had the pumps off for some maintenance, I was able to take this top-down video, which shows you the 3D relief of the corals on the back wall. Cyphastrea, except for the original frag, essentially has no relief. It grows directly on and is probably a millimeter thick. You can also see why the Montipora cap grew in this direction. It was seeking light and is much less shaded than it was previously. Here's a quick update on the green star polyp growing on the back wall of my SPS tank. Here it is back in April. This started as about 1 square inch mat of GSP that I glued directly onto the back wall. It's grown to cover maybe about a quarter of the back wall, extending from these baffles over to the return. Moving over to July, we see that not much has changed. It hasn't grown very much. I think GSP partially shades itself, so it's not going to grow downwards, and it's really out of room to grow upwards. GSP is still the easiest coral to grow on the back wall of your tank and offers really great movement and color. Thank you for watching. If you got value from this video, please consider a like and subscribe. In the comments section, tell us about your experience with adding corals to the back wall of your reef tank.